Good evening, everybody. Welcome to my craft studio. It is Sissy with Sissy's Cards and Crafts. It's been a little while. Again, things are just getting ahead of me, but winding down from work. So now let's do an Easter card tonight. I know we've done a few Easter cards. I've used this stamp set a few times, stamp and die set, but this is a card I've cased from a couple different demonstrators online. And yes, I'm Stampin' Up, independent Stampin' Up demonstrator in Eastern Ontario. Sorry, I didn't mention that. But anyway, let's use this set again. We're going to use a few different parts from it, and then we're going to use a few other things. So this is the one. Again, we're going to use the die. So I keep my dies and stamps together. We're using this frame die, which I just love these frame dies. They're so beautiful. And then the Easter greeting stamp, which I've already mounted on my block. For the little character in here, we are going to use one of the mini ephemera packs that are included in the bundle, or if you get the designer series paper that matches this, then you will get those 2 sheets of ephemera, and we're going to use one of them. We'll decide together what we're going to use. Then this I believe is on our last chance. It was a mega set that I got with Country Birdhouses last year in the paper, and I've really enjoyed using it. It's one I am going to keep. It's so versatile in many different ways. I strongly suggest it. You get these lovely stamps, obviously, and the dies. And these dies here are the ones I'm going to use, these flowers and leaves, and I've got them already punched out that we're going to use to decorate our card. So I have that one. Then you'll notice there is a very faint in the background. I've used this elements of text just to give it a little bit more. Again, a card to me has lots of layers and dimension and texture. And this elements of text stamp, I've really enjoyed. I've done a few different cards with it. I think I've shown you this one before. Sorry, I'm just trying to grab it. And my ribbon doesn't want to stay together. But here I've taken this text and actually embossed it in gold. And it worked out really well. I quite like that. And I've used this stamp set multiple times for a background. And it really doesn't look like, you can't read the writing. And even these splotches, it just adds some depth if you do it lightly. And I really like it. It, again, will be a keeper. I've been looking for a stamp set like this for a long time, and that one just kind of has it all for me. So we're going to utilize that. I'm just going to set it off to the side there. And then I have this base here that I have embossed, and I really like this this Eyelet 3D embossing folder. I think it is just so sweet. And I do believe it came in this mega set with the country flowers. I think, if I'm correct, it isn't going anywhere. So it is one that we'll have access to. Then I pulled out the die from the Grow with Love die set that is an online exclusive. It's the one that came with, it coordinated with Paper Pumpkin last month, and then it had this little set here, and my little tie didn't hold there. I didn't use enough of a adhesive on that. And then it had these stamps. This is just one I kind of put together to play around with it. But I've got this one out. I used a different one here, but it is one that is totally discontinued. It's in my stash from another set. This one's a little bit bigger, but I think it will work just fine. If you don't have a die that is the right length, or you want to change your length, this is something too that is really awesome. So you'll even notice this has a jagged edge on it. This doesn't. This is more like that ticker tape edge or whatever. This is more of a scalloped edge. but they would do. And of course, it's kind of the same size. So, you know, this really is quite an awesome one to have in your stash, because you could create really basic dies, so many different sizes, lengths, all of that jazz with this punch. I've shown it a couple times. Definitely will be one of those keepers. All right, so to make things quicker tonight, I went ahead and I cut everything and got it prepared. Oh, I will be using the ribbon as well, the scalloped ribbon with that petal pink color. We're going to be using a bit of that, and some gems that I'll pull out when we get to that point. Haven't quite got them out yet, but I've got a whole mass of them there. We'll get at. All right, this card rather, I did as a landscape, where this one we're going to do portrait, and it's quite thick because I have 1, 2, 3, 4 layers plus all of this built up on it, and I wanted to give more of an easel. So you'll notice what I did is I scored down the back so that when this sits up, it's going to sit straight. It's not going to fall over as easy. And we have a bit of an easel here. And then, of course, we could write our sentiment in here, which I have yet to do for that. So I was thinking of doing the same thing with this one. And I'm not going to do it as the landscape. I wanted to do it as a portrait. And really, it came down to this piece being the reason I did that, because I could have very easily done the landscape and had this embossed piece straight across here. But I thought, you know what, let's shift it a bit and create more of that portrait style card. So what I want to do is I have my 8.5 by 5.5, right? That's the size of my paper here. I've scored it up 4 1/4, and I'm going to come over and I'm going to score it. An inch might be a little bit too wide, because then I'm only going to have a little piece here. So I don't want to go, oops, sorry, I got a bug in my craft room tonight, and I'm not too fond of them. That's, you know, we're all glad that summer's coming, but summer brings bugs and I don't like it. Anyway, it's dealt with. Back to my score. So I don't really want to go over an inch, because that's going to take away from my writing space. So I want to have this 3/4 of an inch. So I'm going to go basically from this point, which is at 4 1/4, over 3/4. Math isn't functioning so good tonight. So you know what I want to do is I want to just put that at 3/4 here. And I will tell you, you've probably already figured it out. It's 3.5 is what I want that to be at. So that's where I'm going to score. So I'm going to use my scoring blade here. And I'm going to come down and I'm going to score there. You, of course, don't have to do this, but I just find that, I just want to grab my, I just find that with the weight of the front of this card, this just gives it a nice bit of a angle to hold on to. So then I'm going to fold this way. I don't really want to score it too much, because ideally that card is going to lay flat in the envelope, but when it stands up, it will fold back like this. So to make that work properly, we're just going to take some glue. We're going to glue it. It's like a bookbinding card. Okay, so that is going to go on there like that. And we're just going to hold that down. And just for weight, I'm going to pop that on there. Okay, so then, oop. Right, so then we have the front of the card is going to be this white piece. And I want to have it mounted on that petal pink. But what I did is I just took half. So I had half the 8.5 by 11 to do my card base. I did 8.5. The other, I cut that 8.5 and 11 in half rather. The other half I cut in half again. So then, and I made it a little bit smaller to have this white piece here. And then the other half I just cut in half to create this. I don't think I want it quite that high. So it is 2 3/4, I believe. I think I want it at 2.5. So I should have ideally cut this before I embossed it to the length I wanted. It's not the greatest idea to cut an embossed sheet after it's embossed, but I just think that gives me a little bit more space there for what I want. And so I'm just going to, they say stamp before you stick. So if you mess up, you can correct it. And I'm going to take this long one here. I'm going to mount it on my block. All right, sorry, just put some weight back on that there. Just want that to go flat. So if I look at what I have here, I want to make sure, one, you get the writing in the right way. And I want to I'm going to remove this, but I'm just going to use it for a second for a guide to see where I want this to be. So I believe I pretty much wanted about 1/2 inch from the top and 1 inch in from the side. So I will grab here, I think I did gray granite, and I'm going to stamp off. So let me just grab a sheet here. This old calendar sheet. And I'm going to stamp the gray granite, stamp off, and then put it on here because I want it to be fairly light. Something I've noticed, though, with these cling mount stamps is you have to be careful of your edge here. So I don't want to push down too hard because then I'll get ink along my edge, and that doesn't stamp off well. And so then when I come over to do my actual stamp, I can get that edge on there. So a couple things. One, don't push so hard that you're going to muck up your edges. Two, check it and be ready to wipe that off. So let's just a few taps, and you'll see I've got some heavier ink here than I do there. So more secure taps. And I think I have missed all of my edges, which is what I wanted. If I had gotten ink on those edges here, I would just take a cloth and wipe them off. A Kleenex usually is what I use. Not one that's been sitting in my pocket all day, though, because they get a little fuzzy. All right, so then I wanted right about there. I'm going to come in, and all I want is a nice light background stamp. So to me, that is just perfect for what I want to see there. And then I'm going to get out my stamp cleaner here. Again, I've got my mister. Get a mist on the wet side. Bit of scrub. And then dry off. And sure it's good and dry. There we go. So now I have that stamp on. I will take this piece here and adhere it. So I have that base there. When you're using white paper, cardstock rather, or anything lighter even, the glue will tend to wrinkle white more than it does colored. So even feeling it, you'll feel that white cardstock has a different consistency or texture rather than colored in many cases. So we usually say don't use a whole lot of glue with white cardstock. However, this one has been embossed, so make sure you do have plenty on it, but not so much that it's going to give you all of those little squiggles underneath. Okay, so there we've got the embossed part on. And then what I did for the frame, so I said we cut that frame out, is I actually did it. I took a piece of white cardstock and adhered it to a foam sheet. So the foam sheet's double-sided sticky. And so the top side is my white cardstock that I wanted. I ran it through the cut and emboss machine. I actually used my mini, and I went forward and back. And then this was tedious. Now, some of these aren't so tedious, but this one has all these little tiny, and you can see I missed a piece here, pieces that you have to come in. And I found rather than pushing them through, and you'll notice the backing is still there, I just went in with my take your pick tool and the sharp end and just kind of poked out those small pieces. And maybe that is just a bit of a residual left there. Okay, so decide which is your top and your bottom. I always feel this is the top and that's the bottom. And then I just peel this backing off and I have that all adhered. I'm going to make sure these are off because once I stick them on, they will not come off too easy because this is a very, very sticky product, but awesome for something like this because the whole thing will adhere and half of it is going to adhere to the embossed part. So I want to make sure it's going to stick. And I'm going to come in and I'm going to cover this up where the letters are. I want to still be able to see them, but sorry, I've got to pull it down just so I've got it ahead of me. So I'm going to see the sides, the top, like it's going to peek out throughout. That's completely fine. And now that just adheres down there like that. Very, very lovely. Works quite easily. Okay, so our next step is figuring out which little character we want because then we need to arrange our flowers beneath. We'll do our sentiment last. So the flowers that I have here, I'll pull up right now while I'm thinking of it. There we go. And you can see here, just to show you, I've got the center part of this that is that paper. Oh man, it's got dirt on it now. I don't know how that happened. There must be something on my desk. But I could use that and adhere it or cut something else out. So don't ever just throw away those good little tidbits of things. Okay, what character do I want? So I've got this little guy here. I don't want to put him right in, and he's not really going to fit. So I kind of liked just sitting on the edge, and then we'll use some dimensionals under that side to pop him up. So there's that guy. There's this little gardener. Pretty cute, especially if we've got the flowers in there. There is a lovely larger duck. I like the way this duck is facing that way and kind of follows the curvature of the frame. This little duck, he is pretty cute. Not quite, doesn't fill in as much, but we've got that lettering there behind. He is just a cute little guy. Again, the same thing. You're going to see a lot of that lettering in the back. This part here, if you can see that and you're wondering, how are we going to cover that up? That's actually going to be covered up by our flowers. So I'm not worried about that. This lovely little bunny is quite adorable. I think he's cute. And then this lovely little mouse, which I think is pretty sweet. So the other thing, as well as the size I'm looking at, the coloring I'm looking at, the direction they are, like the ones that kind of face this way, I just feel have a little more, they just fit the card a little bit better. But the other thing I'm looking at is the color of my flowers. So these flowers I'm going to put on, I'd like them to pull out the colors that are in the petal pink that's in the flowers. So I think I'm down to these two guys. I like the size of them. I like how they kind of cover that frame, and I like the coloring in them. So I think I'm going to go for this little guy here. He's pretty cute. Okay, so I can put that on now and put my flowers around. I did do the other one. I put my flowers on after, but I think this one we'll put them on now just to help with positioning of those flowers. So what I want to do is note the position, right? So I want a dimensional here and a dimensional here. And then I'll just put a little bit of glue kind of from here to here. Just run it along this edge. So you don't need a whole lot. Just need something for that to adhere to. So pull off these backings. Now the adhesive sheet, the foam adhesive sheet is a little bit thicker than the dimensionals. I don't really, I mean, you can notice it if you look at it in the right light, but I think with these flowers here, that just kind of pops it up a little bit. Now I had an extra one there. I'm going to pull him down just because I might use him. Okay. If you are lucky enough to have a take your pick tool, you've got this end in as well. And this end is used for scoring, but it's also good for another activity. And I'm just going to pop this in so it just comes out like we've used both ends of that. There's two ends of here. So what I want to do is I'm going to take this and I'm going to take these little flower petals, flowers that I cut out from that set. I'm going to lay them on this little foam sheet. So I used to do cakes and we did, the gum paste flowers, and this came with it. And this is exactly what I did is I took my gum paste and I would then take a tool very similar to this and just gently push into the foam sheet. So this is just a very thin piece of foam, a good decent consistency though that I can press in. But try any sort of foam sheet that you might have, maybe even something you pull out of a package that you get. You might have to double up something, but then just gently press in and you see how that curls those flowers up. I know in a card might be a little bit problematic, but if you're handing it to somebody directly, you can just put it gently in the envelope and not smush these too much. So then you can even take your leaves and do the same thing, except I'm just kind of following the center line of them, and it is curling them up a little bit too. So just kind of coming down like that and giving them a bit of extra dimension. It does, whoops, make sure you get the right edge up, the cut side up. When you do any sort of die cutting, you can see which is the top and the bottom. Might not be as easy to see on camera. All right, so we're just going to finish these last ones up. I might have to kind of flatten them down a little bit as I put them in, but I like to start with them curved, then I can make sure I'm getting glue the right way, and you can't really curve them too easily once you get them on the card. Just be careful, like I just about ripped that guy by running down the cut too much. I'm kind of coming on the one side, not right down the cut centerpiece. Okay, so there we go. Now we're going to take our card and we're going to start arranging these. So I like to kind of get a little bit of a layout first, and I take my large flowers and kind of arrange them, and then the larger leaves come in and just give a general, this is kind of where I want them to be, Doesn't mean they're ending up there. Just kind of a general, that's the look I want. So I've scattered around a little bit. Now I'm going to come in and glue these down. That little piece does not want to stay in the garbage. And then we'll layer these other ones on here. So what I'm going to do is actually grab a pair of tweezers here. Sorry, my noise. I have a pair of reverse tweezers, and these are just going to help me get these in the right spot. If you don't want to wait for your glue to dry, if that's going to be a problem for you, then by all means use a glue dot. That would work to hold them down. It doesn't need a ton of glue. Now you can see, especially with these flowers on here, why it was important for me to get the same color. It didn't have to be the same color like the petal pink. It just had to be a color that coordinated, and I did choose to use the same color. Okay, so I'm just going to stick the glue kind of down here, not all on the whole leaf, because, and this will stick down further, so I'll be able to come in and get more of the flowers and petals or leaves on there. So use your dimension. Your card is giving you dimension. Use it. Don't be afraid of it. That's what makes it look more lifelike. Definitely like it took more work. Which, you know, doesn't hurt that people are nice and amazed by the cards we do. Okay, so I'm going to take some others now and just kind of come in. So where do I want these? Just kind of, oops, I have a little bit of glue on my. So I want a flower there, but I'm going to have to put some leaves in around it just to bring it up. And then I want to kind of make it more of a spray flowers. So I'll come down around like this. And then we'll just stick all of those leaves in there. I don't know why I'm switching hands with these. I'm not ambidextrous, but don't need to be quite doing what I'm doing. This one might have to go down further than I wanted it to, just because of the, but this one is actually going to stick to the little character here and not, and so it's actually kind of suspended a little bit. I'm going to pull that petal up there. This is a little tedious, and that's part of the reason why I went ahead and cut it all out first, so you could see how I did this rather than see how I cut everything out, because that kind of is a given if you've been following my cards. I've shown multiple times how to use the cut and emboss machine, and I will many times yet to come, but while I've got a second here and I'm working on these, I want to let you know that I am going to be doing, for those of you that are in the area, and I'm in the Kingston, Ontario area. I will be doing an open house where we're going to actually do the heirloom arrangements, I believe it is, with the butterflies, and make 8 cards that are totally unique to however you want them to be. We're going to do them together, and I'll show you a couple different ways of putting them together. because they're not so cut and dried as what the other kits have been, but that's what makes it nice, because you can kind of make them however you want. And then I was going to also show a couple ways that you could make them very unique and stretch the kit to create more cards than what has been included with them. So maybe around 10 cards you should be able to get, or maybe even more. I wanted to just kind of stick one right in there just to give a little bit added more depth. Kind of show it off a little bit. Okay, so that's how I did that. Yeah, so we're going to get together and do that. If you are anywhere in Canada and you would like to join, you could join virtually. I will be doing that the following Monday. So I believe May 3rd is a Saturday, I believe. And that's the day that I will be doing the in-person one. And then May 5th, which is the Monday, we will be doing a virtual class where I will have the card set sent to you, and or if you want to order it yourself, and if you contact me, I'll tell you the differences in price and reasons why you might want to order your own, or you might want me to order it for you. And it will be sent to you, and then we will join virtually. In the kits, everything is included that you need. So you will be able to follow right along with no problem. The only thing you might need is a pair of scissors. If you are able to join in person, then you will have access to all of my stash here to be a little bit more creative. So, or if you're at home and you have your own stash, by all means, you can be just as creative as you want. All right, so I'm layering these on now, making sure I have that nice petal pink border, and using the glue gives me some wiggle room to be able to make sure that I'm getting it in the right spot there, like that. And there we go. We just need to do our sentiment and our embellishments. Okay, so for the sentiment, I was going to use a piece of paper, and I had a piece of paper here. I don't know where it went to. I always keep a stash of white paper right under my cut and emboss machine, so it works that way. So I'm going to make sure that this is just kind of the right size for this guy. And I'm just going to cut it off just like that. All right. I think black works just as well with this. We could use a basic gray, but I think I'm just going to use my Memento black. And for these, I do like to stamp first. Just make sure, and I cut this the proper size or average size of what I need. So if I aim right for the middle, I'm going to be good. Hold it for a few seconds, let that ink soak into the paper, let it go, and then I'm just going to clean my stamp off here. Still got some spray on there. All right. Whoa, I am so sorry about that. That was louder than I had anticipated. Didn't mean to drop it. Okay, so then I'm just going to position my die over. So I've got my, you can see I need a new base plate. I have a new base plate. I just have yet to put it in. And what you want to do when you're, so make sure that's straight. And you want to make sure that you're not forcing this in on a straight edge. So just angle it slightly and it will feed through much nicer. I have my Stamp and Cut and Emboss machine. I'm going to use my base plate, my cutting plate, and then my top plate, making sure I've kind of got this middle cutting plate inset a bit. Set it on the base, the stink, And there we go. There's like that little pop at the end. And you'll note that this plate, my cutting plate, is very well worn, but the top plate, I do have some cracks in it. And you can see some cuts in it. That's usually from the top of it, though. There obviously has been a few oopses where I've put the blade down on this one. But my plan is I'm going to say goodbye to this one. Then this will become my cutting plate, and it's still pretty much flat. Where the cutting plate does get rounded, you can flip it over, and obviously I do. But this will become my cutting plate. Then I'll only bring in one new plate, and so I kind of make my plates last a little bit longer that way. All right, so now we have our Easter greetings, and with the other one I did snip it in right there. And you can see I covered up this guy, but I'm thinking I'm covering him a little too much here. I could put it down here. Or I could just cut off that edge a little bit. I don't know now. I knew this would be longer, but I didn't quite like the way he's being covered up there. But then if I cut that off, I've lost my... You know what? I am going to just cut that so one side is... I'm just going to bring in my trimmer, and I'm going to just line it up. And then I'm going to cut that off. Get rid of that little edge. And again, I used, this was the other side, the other positioning of card there. So cutting it, I get to see a little bit more of my little guy. So I will put the dimensional on this end and a little bit of glue just on this end so it adheres down. The other thing with putting it right here is it covers that edge of the embossed piece that I kind of just wanted to cover there. All right, so also for here, and to me this is the top, and you'll see in the catalog where ribbon can be fed through this spot. Well, that didn't work really well, so all I did was I took a piece of ribbon and just cut off about 2 inches, a little bit more, maybe 3 inches. And I just took my ribbon and tied it and created a nice little knot. Try to make sure you pull straight instead of down so you get it more of a square knot there. I tried not to pull it tight, to leave it a little bit loose. And then that knot will sit with a glue dot right up there. And I will cut off the edges. Let's poof this up a little bit. When you're making bows or tying ribbon, each ribbon is different, and different weight, different edges, different, just even the sheen of it can alter how it ties. So make sure you're playing around with it enough that you're happy with how it looks. And I'm going to take my glue dots here, and I'm just going to grab this glue dot with the pokey part of my take your pick tool, put it on the back, And you can fold it. It doesn't have to be flat, so don't worry about that. It just has to make sure it sticks. Just kind of stick it so it looks like it's adhered to that space. And I like the glue dots too, because it does give you some wiggle room on that. All right, and I'm just going to cut this like that. And there's our card. And it can stand just like that. So it holds up, stands up, and unless you hit the edge of something, it should work fairly good. So 2 Easter cards, different ways. Sayings inside them. There's multiple sayings you can do from your sets that you have. So for this one, it's we did Easter greetings. Hello, friend. Happy spring. Somebody loves you. For the country flowers, we had sending love. Lucky to know you. Probably heartfelt sympathy wouldn't be our Easter greeting. Best friend ever. Even flower market. Those are great. There's all sorts of different, depending on the stamp set you have, you can find all different sorts of greetings or write your own. Right. All right. Thank you for joining me. I look forward to seeing you again soon. Take care.